What is up, my friends? Welcome to Flippin' Bats. The wild card round is in the books. The game just wrapped up. Red Sox, Yankees, game three. All the game threes today are in the books. And here we are. We're going to talk all the way through it. This wild card round was the best we've seen yet. The first 4 years, we only got two game threes, 2 for 16 getting game threes in the first 4 years. We got 3 out of 4 this year. And we're going to talk about them this show, but we're going to preview the NLDS and ALDS because the field is set. So this is going to be a fun show. A lot to talk about. I do want to go through the series that we just saw because there was a lot. There was a lot of overmanaging. There was a lot of incredible performances. So I do briefly want to touch on each of those series and talk about them before previewing each of these next few games that we're going to get starting Saturday. Friday, the day this episode will be released, is an off day for everyone, and all the games start on Saturday. So look, this first round could not have gone better. When the calendar turns to October, teams start playing baseball. I mean, the game changes when the playoffs start. And like you can feel it from the very first game. Teams start bunting when they hadn't bunted all year long. The Tigers bunted twice in game one of the wild card round. They bunted 5 times all year long. 2 bunts. One was a squeeze bunt. You just start playing baseball, and I love it. The Padres bunted their cleanup hitter in the wild card round. Things just change. You play for one run, you're pitching the lights out, you bring in pitchers when they're not normally pitching, and it just creates a ton of chaos. And it also creates a lot of overmanaging, which I saw and going to talk through that because there were a lot of different moments where I saw some situations that I just didn't feel were managed the best. And it was too many managers pushing the panic button and doing things out of comfort zones. But really what we got is an incredible first round from pretty much every series. Dodgers Reds was really a blowout of a series, but every other series was absolutely fantastic. Starts with Tigers Guardians. Detroit Tigers end up advancing to the ALDS because of game one, the Tarek Skubal game. Tarek Skubal was disgusting in game one. One of the most dominant performances you'll see in the postseason. Goes out 14 punch-outs, a career high, 7 2/3 innings pitched. He had 3 strikeouts over 100 miles an hour, which is the second most in the pitch tracking era. It was simple. The Detroit Tigers have Tarek Skubal, and the Cleveland Guardians do not. And that's why the Detroit Tigers won game one. Game two, some bad decisions were made here in hindsight. Some bad base running. McKinstry going to third base, costing the Tigers a run at the plate, getting thrown out there. I thought that was terrible base running. You cannot run into the final out at third, and you really can't run into the final out at third when you have a guy that's 100% going to score and you get tagged out a half second before he touches home plate. That cannot happen. AJ Hinch pinch hitting for Riley Green fairly early in the game with a lefty coming in. Riley Green's one of your studs. I just thought pulling Casey Mize after 62 pitches when he was rolling. Some overmanaging, I thought, in that game. The Guardians poured on late with a Rocchio homer and a Naylor homer, and that game got out of hand there late. And then game three. Game three on Thursday, the Detroit Tigers pull it out. They could not hit with runners in scoring position all series long. Dating back to last playoffs, they were brutal with runners in scoring position. And they pulled it out. Sixth inning, Dylan Dingler, the kid from down the street in Ohio, the Cleveland Guardians fan, Indians fan growing up, turns into a Guardians fan when they change their name. And the kid from down the street hits a go-ahead homer to beat his team. They end up pouring it on in the seventh. They finally started hitting with runners in scoring position. It was just abysmal for the Detroit Tigers, and they can't be that bad with runners in scoring position anymore. But they got it done. They win game three, and the Detroit Tigers advance to play the Seattle Mariners. The next series we got was the Padres and the Cubs. Really fun series. Good series. Wrigley was rocking game one. Seiya Suzuki and Carson Kelly go back-to-back to win game one. Really, that's all that was needed. Cubs end up winning that game. And then we got game two. What happened there? Biggest story of that game, Mason Miller threw a pitch 104.5 miles an hour, the fastest pitch in the pitch tracking era. And I arguably believe that that was the greatest pitch of all time. 104.5 dotted on the black. Greatest pitch I've ever seen. You use an opener. You want to talk about overmanaging. Here was one of the biggest situations of the first round. You use an opener, Craig Counsell and Kittredge, to avoid Imanaga facing Tatis and Machado in the first inning. And then you go to Imanaga later. And then Imanaga ends up pitching to Manny Machado with a base open and gives up a homer to him. Make that make sense. It doesn't. Just start your starter and just, I don't know. Overmanaging, I thought there. Padres win game 2. We get another game 3. Game 3, Dansby Swanson was fantastic defensively, as he had been all series long. This game really 3-0 until late. Jackson Merrill leads off the 9th with a homer, and then we got a brutal strikeout call against Xander Bogaerts. ABS now, please. But look, the story of that series. Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis went 2 for 22 at the plate with 7 strikeouts. Fernando Tatis looked lost. You're never gonna win if you're the San Diego Padres, of a team built with stars in their lineup. Those are your 2 main stars. You're not gonna win when that happens. You gave up 3 runs in every single game of a 3-game series and you lost. That should never happen with a lineup like you have. You gave up 3 runs in game 1. You gave up 3 runs in game 2 and 3 runs in game 3, and you lost 2 of 3. That can't happen. That was the story of that series. Padres offense just did not show up, and the Chicago Cubs advanced to play the number 1 seed, Milwaukee Brewers. Then we got the Red Sox and Yankees. Game 1 was awesome. Max Fried against Garrett Crochet. Max Fried was dominant. Garrett Crochet was dominant. The big story here, I thought a little bit of overmanagement from Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone pulled out Max Fried after 102 pitches with no trouble on the bases, goes out, gets the first guy in the 7th, and then pulls him. And then the bullpen blew the game before even recording an out. What? Just let your guy be your guy. Keep in Max Fried. Let him go batter to batter if you're worried about him. Let him get in trouble if, see if he gives up a hit or walks a guy. If he does, then pull him. The guy was throwing a shutout into the 7th, and then you use 5 bullpen arms in 2 innings and give up 3 runs, and then you lose game 1. Why? Because Garrett Crochet was dominant. Gave up a homer early to Anthony Volpe and then got 17 straight outs. Ended up going 7 2/3. Cora sent him back out when he was at 100 pitches, back out for the 8th inning, and then he handed the ball to Aroldis Chapman. You rode with your guy. A runner got on in that 8th, and you still rode with your guy. Awesome outing from Garrett Crochet, I thought, and that was the difference in game 1. Aaron Boone pulled Max Fried. Alex Cora rode with his guy. Red Sox take game 1. I just can't fathom in game 1. Again, I've talked a bit about overmanaging because I see it a lot. In game 1, Aaron Boone did not start Jazz Chisholm Jr. or Ben Rice. Jazz Chisholm Jr. in his first 162 games with the New York Yankees hit 40 homers and stole 48 bases with an OPS well over 800. That's not a platoon player. Jazz Chisholm Jr. is not a platoon player. Just overthinking it. Lefty on the mound. I'm not starting Jazz Chisholm Jr. or Ben Rice, who was also probably your hottest hitter besides Aaron Judge. Overmanaging, not a good first game for Aaron Boone. Red Sox win that one. Game 2, Ben Rice starts, homers in the first inning. They're off and running from there. Awesome game. Yankees end up winning game 2. And then game 3 was the Cam Schlittler game. How many times since he made his debut have I on this show said Cam Schlittler is the truth? He is the Yankees playoff X factor. And if the Yankees win in October, it will be because he is paired with Max Fried and Carlos Rodon. Well, what did he do? He went out and turned himself into a legend. Cam Schlittler became a legend on Thursday night, throwing 100 miles an hour, 96-mile-an-hour cutters, punched out 12 guys through 8 innings, first rookie to strike out 10 or more in a postseason game since 1997 when Livan Hernandez did it. This was the Cam Schlittler game. He became a legend Thursday night in the Bronx. The game was awesome. The place was rocking. When he went back out for the eighth inning, the place went nuts. McMahon dove into a dugout to catch a ball. Yankee Stadium was rocking. It was an awesome atmosphere. I do wish Aaron Boone let Cam Schlittler go out for the ninth inning, but props where props are due, letting him even go 8 innings. He's a rookie. I could see Aaron Boone pulling him at the first sign of trouble. Luckily, he didn't get himself in any trouble. Punched out the world. He let him get through 8. I would have liked to see him go back out for the ninth. The kid had his moment. He got through 8. He was living in his moment. He was cruising. Let it become the ultimate moment. This is what John Smoltz said yesterday on the show. He said the one thing that we're seeing these days is players not being allowed to have their moment. Managers are taking away those moments, and I get it in the regular season. He goes, although it wouldn't be my decision, I get it over the course of 162, but in the playoffs, let guys have their moment. Cam Schlittler had his moment in game 3. It could have been a complete game, but he pulled him after 8. Totally understandable. I do get it. I would have liked to see him go 9. I thought Alex Cora left Connolly early out there way too long. I thought he left him out to dry. I thought the defense was not good behind him, but just a rookie making his first road start in a big league stadium. He's only had a few starts in the big leagues. There was one at home, and then he threw, or there were some at home, and then he threw against the Tampa Rays in that spring training stadium, and then the A's in that minor league stadium. He hadn't actually pitched in a big league ballpark on the road, and the first one comes at Yankee Stadium in an elimination game in the playoffs, and I just thought he left him out to dry a little too long. Yankees win game 3 and win the series and advance. The final series of the wild card round was Reds and Dodgers. This series, I would say, went about as expected. Offense of the Dodgers was just too good. Started with Ohtani homering in game 1. Leadoff homer to start the series. Once the Dodgers get out to a 2 or 3 run lead against the Reds, it just felt like it was over. The Reds can pitch, and they're good because they can pitch, but if they fall behind at all, it felt over, and it was. The Dodgers offense was too good for the Reds in this series, and their bullpen is going to blow games, but they didn't against the Reds because they were too far ahead. This Dodgers bullpen is a problem. It is. Talked about it before the series. It was during this series. Their offense, they were just on a different playing field than the Cincinnati Reds in this series. They win 2-0. Snell was nasty in game 1, 7 dominant innings. Then the bullpen came in and immediately almost gave it up. Same with game 2. Yamamoto, good. Bullpen immediately tries to give it up. That was the story. Dodgers just overpowered the Reds. Dodgers win that series 2-0. It was truly an incredible wild card round. 3 of 4 game 3s we got. Before we get into the division previews, I do want to do top performers of the wild card round. Top 5 performers from the wild card round, starting with number 5, Mookie Betts, the Dodgers. Mookie hit 3 doubles in game 2. 667, 1700 OPS. Mookie's a game changer for this Dodgers team. We're going to talk about it in the previews. But if Mookie heats up as he is and performs like this throughout the playoffs, the Dodgers are going to be, they are a lot of trouble for everyone. But they're even more trouble if Mookie's hitting like this. Number 4, Shohei Ohtani. 2 homers in game 1 of the playoffs. 3 RBIs in game 1. He had a hit and an RBI in game 2. So 4 RBIs, 2 homers in 2 games, hit 333 with a 1400 OPS. He's number 4 for me. Number 3, I'm going with Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet, 7 2/3 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, 0 walks, 1 earned run. Number 2, I'm going with Tarek Skubal. 7 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 14 strikeouts, a career high, and 1 earned run with a ball that wasn't hit out of the infield. Absolute dominance for who I believe is the best pitcher in baseball. And the number 1 performer from the wild card round of the playoffs, we just saw it, Cam Schlittler. 8 innings pitched, 12 strikeouts, 0 walks, 0 earned runs, and only 5 hits in those 8 innings. A legend was born. Thursday night in the Bronx, and that man's name is Cam Schlittler. Top 5 performances from the wild card round: Mookie, Shohei, Garrett Crochet, Tarek Skubal, and Cam Schlittler. Let's move on. Let's talk some previews. We're going to start with the NLDS series, and this one's a heavyweight bout. Two of baseball's most stacked rosters, one collision course. It's Dodgers, it's Phillies. Let's talk about this series. Two World Series favorites. Two top picks to win the World Series, and we're getting it in the NLDS. I wish this was going to be a 7-game series, but these games are 5-game series. Dodgers, Phillies. The Dodgers are favored on FanDuel Sportsbook, minus 124. Very slight favorite. So what I want to do with each of these series is I want to go each team's strength, how each team can win this series, and an X factor of the series. So we're going to start with the Dodgers' big strength. Starting pitching. I guess there's 2 for the Dodgers. It's starting pitching and their 3 MVPs. That rotation is unbelievable. Snell was great in Game 1. Yamamoto is one of the best pitchers in baseball all year long. Shohei Ohtani is going to start Game 1 of the NLDS, and he's been fantastic. Tyler Glasnow hasn't even been mentioned yet. He's just sitting there, and he's a stud. So they're starting pitching, plus Shohei, Mookie, Freddie in the lineup. That's obviously their big strength. Phillies' big strength, deep lineup. The Phillies' lineup is deeper, in my opinion, than the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not saying their top 3, top 4 guys are as good, because the Dodgers have 3 MVPs there. But what I am saying is I think their lineup is deeper. So a super deep lineup and the best closer in baseball. Right now, the best closer in baseball is Yohan Duran. He's been lights out ever since he got to the Phillies. So their closer, their back into the bullpen is a massive advantage, in my opinion. So in this series, the Dodgers beat the Phillies for me, the Dodgers beat the Phillies if Shohei, Mookie, and Freddie all show up. And that's not a guarantee, but they're all capable of taking over a series. But to beat the Phillies, where the series, you're going to have to play at least 2 games to start on the road. And if it gets to a Game 5, which I imagine it will, it's going back to Philly. You're going to need your stars to show up. All of them. So it sounds easy. It sounds like a simple answer. Oh, if Shohei, Mookie, and Freddie all show up. Well, if one of them doesn't, I do believe that it's going to cost them this series. I think those guys need to carry this lineup. The bottom half of the lineup isn't as deep as the Phillies. So your studs need to carry the lineup. So for me, the Dodgers win if all of their MVPs show up and perform. The Phillies beat the Dodgers if they get at least 3 quality starts from their starting pitchers. Hear me out. Quality start is 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs or less. If they get that, I think they win the series. To me, that means they have at least 3 starts, which you need 3 wins. You need at least 3 starts of the pitchers keeping you in it, because I think their offense is going to be good enough. And if you can get into the Dodgers bullpen, you're going to win those games late if you got good starts from your starter. Christopher Sanchez is going to start Game 1. He's a certified bona fide ace, one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball. He was fantastic this year and is in the Cy Young argument, even though I think Paul Skeens is going to win it. Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola needs to step up. Jesus Luzardo, they have some stud arms. And the interesting matchup in this series is going to be those stud lefty starters, which you're going to get some length out of them. Christopher Sanchez, left-handed. Ranger Suarez, left-handed. Jesus Luzardo, left-handed. These left-handed starters against Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman at the top of the lineup could be a problem for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So if they get at least 3 quality starts from their starting pitchers, the Dodgers will beat the Phillies. The X factor in this series is the Dodgers bullpen. It's pretty simple. It wasn't a big enough factor because the Dodgers clearly outmatched the Cincinnati Reds in the first series. But even though it was a blowout by the time it was handed over to the Dodgers bullpen, they still made every single game interesting. The Dodgers bullpen is an issue. Roki Sasaki has been a huge addition for them. And as I said a couple weeks ago, he's a game changer for this Dodgers bullpen, I think. But the X factor in this series is going to be the Dodgers bullpen. Does it blow any games? Or how many games does it blow? Because this bullpen has shown us over 162 that they're a problem, and they're going to be a problem. And it's going to be exposed by a really good offense in the Philadelphia Phillies. So this series is going to be awesome. Game one, Christopher Sanchez against Shohei Ohtani. The series will start in Philadelphia. Shohei Ohtani making his postseason debut on the mound. This man is going to be amped up. We've seen him go 6 or so innings at this point, so I don't expect much of a pitch limit on him. He's going to be amped up for his first postseason start. One thing I did want to mention with this series, Mookie Betts did not have a good regular season. Mookie Betts did not have a Mookie Betts type regular season. He had 258 with 20 homers and a 732 OPS. You expect more from Mookie Betts. In the first round of the playoffs, he went 6 for 9 with 3 RBIs and a 1700 OPS and 3 doubles in game 2. In his last 18 postseason games, he's hitting 338 with an OPS over 1,000 and 4 homers in those 18 games. Mookie getting hot changes everything. Mookie Betts hits behind Shohei Ohtani. We saw it in round 1. They pitched around Shohei Ohtani. They intentionally walked Shohei Ohtani in a situation that didn't necessarily call for it. They just pitched around Shohei to get to Mookie Betts, who was hot, and he made them pay. So if Mookie Betts is this hitter and not the regular season guy, or he got hot at the end of the regular season, but not those numbers he put up in the regular season, it changes everything. Because then you have to pitch to Shohei when maybe you don't want to because Mookie's hot behind you. Mookie being hot at the plate changes everything. So keep an eye out on that, on how Mookie, if he continues to stay hot. But this series to me is probably the most exciting NL ALDS matchup. Dodgers, Phillies. Dodgers are the slight favorite in that one. That starts Saturday. Next matchup we are getting in the NLDS is going to be Brewers and Cubs. The Brewers are the number 1 seed sitting there. They are going to get the first couple games at home. The Brewers are slight favorites here. They're minus 116 on FanDuel Sportsbook. This is a division rivalry, NL Central division rivalry, where the manager of the Chicago Cubs a couple years ago was the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, and he left the Brewers to go to a team that he thought was a more enticing, exciting job with a better future, and that has not yet been the case. The Brewers have still been the cream of the crop in the NL Central. They're the number 1 seed, and this can be the series that gets them over the hump and changes the guard in the NL Central and changes the narrative. Best record in baseball, the Milwaukee Brewers. But I said it last week, I'm not sitting here thinking this Milwaukee Brewers team is this massive juggernaut that they're going to run into, even though they're the number 1 seed. So Brewers' biggest strength is easily, in my opinion, their starting pitching. Their starting pitching is nasty. Freddie Peralta is starting game 1 of the series. He's in that NL Cy Young conversation. He's filthy. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. The Brewers' big strength is their starting pitching. The Cubs' big strength, in my opinion, I hate to say defense, but it changed everything in round 1. The Cubs' defense is a massive strength, and that matters big time against the Milwaukee Brewers, who are a team that likes to manufacture runs and bunt guys over and steal bases and hit and run. The Cubs being a very good defensive team really helps them. The Cubs' biggest strength, in my opinion, is their defense. So the Brewers beat the Cubs by their dominant pitching, staying dominant. The Cubs' offense, to me, doesn't scream that it's a huge issue, although they've heated up. Michael Busch, really good in the first series. Kyle Tucker, you could see it throughout the series. You could see him get healthier and get his approach back in game 3. He had his best game of the series. Kyle Tucker is a game changer in his own right. PCA, 3 hits in the finale. So if all these guys are firing, the Cubs offense is a strength, but they need that to be the case. The Brewers beat the Cubs by keeping that offense silenced with their biggest strength being their starting pitching. We'll see how that shakes out. The Cubs beat the Brewers by Kyle Tucker, PCA, and Seiya Suzuki all staying hot. Kyle Tucker got hot in game three. Seiya Suzuki, really poor second half of the season. Got hot right at the end of the regular season, and then his final couple games with the Cubbies in the wild card round, he really got hot there. So the Cubs beat the Brewers if Kyle Tucker, PCA, and Seiya Suzuki stay hot. The Cubs offense, in my opinion, is built better for October and is better than the Brewers offense. And I think it can be too much if those guys show up. But the Brewers pitching is certainly capable of shutting them down. That's the big difference for me. Can the Cubs offense get to the Brewers starting pitching? Or can the Brewers starting pitching silence the Cubs offense? I know that's not this crazy thought, but with this series specifically, the Brewers are built around that starting pitching, and the Cubs go out and nag Kyle Tucker and trade for him before the season. He needs to play a factor here if you're going to beat the number one seed. The X factor for me in this series is the Brewers offense. Do they show up? My honest opinion, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, I've been saying this since the trade deadline, I don't think the Brewers put themselves in enough of a position come October. I don't think the front office did enough for this team. I think they're a very good baseball team. They're obviously the number one seed. They obviously have the best record in the game of baseball, and that's all for a reason. I think this Brewers team is very good, but I think they're built to win over the course of 162, and they weren't put in a position enough to win in October, and I think this series, that could get exposed. Cubbies, Brewers, NL Central clash in this NLDS matchup. I'm going to take the Chicago Cubs to win this series and advance to the NLCS. I didn't pick my winner in the first round. I have the Phillies winning the World Series, so I'm going to keep riding with the Phillies. That was my exact matchup. Dodgers-Phillies, I have the Phillies advancing. I had the Padres advancing over the Cubs. That did not happen. The Cubs advanced to play the Brewers, but I'm going to ride with the Cubbies to beat the Brewers in this series as well. So the Dodgers advance, or the Phillies advance, and the Cubs advance to the NLCS, in my opinion. Now on to the American League side of things. First up, we are getting Tigers, Mariners. Mariners are favorites at minus 172 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, these two teams' strengths is pretty obvious, in my opinion. The Tigers' strength is Tarek Skubal. He changes everything in every series. The Tigers' strength is Tarek Skubal. The Mariners' strength is their starting pitching as a whole, which is why we're seeing the Mariners as favorites to win this series. The Mariners' starting pitchers as a whole are better and are elite. The Tigers have Tarek Skubal, which is why I would imagine they're probably going to be favorites in game one. I can look at that right now, but I would imagine the Detroit Tigers are going to be favorites in game one because they have Tarek Skubal going and the Mariners don't. Let's see. Tigers in game one. Oh, it's not announced. It's not yet announced. Starting pitchers aren't yet announced yet. So who's to say? But whenever Tarek Skubal pitches, the Detroit Tigers will be the favorite. He's their strength. The Mariners' strength is starting pitching depth. The Mariners beat the Tigers if they can beat Tarek Skubal once. You're probably going to have to face him twice. If you can beat Tarek Skubal one time, one game, you win the series and you advance on to the ALCS. The Tigers beat the Mariners if they go better than 4 for 46 with runners in scoring position like they had in the prior 4 playoff games before game 3. 23 men left on base in games 1 and game 2 of the wild card round. That cannot happen. The Detroit Tigers can beat the Mariners if the offense stays as hot as it did at the end of game 3. They do not win if they continue to be as poor offensively as they have been for the last few playoff games before game 3. Before inning number 6 of game 3, to be honest. It was brutal with runners in scoring position. They have been so bad. That cannot continue. You cannot go farther. I've been clamoring all year how this Tigers offense is not good enough. I believe they needed another piece. But here we are. You don't have that other piece. You just have to be better with runners in scoring position. It was infuriating. It made me want to rip my hair out watching them in the first round. They were pitching the lights out, but they just couldn't get hit. They had so many opportunities to score. Second and third, nobody out. First and third, nobody out. No runs in any of those innings. 23 guys left on base in 2 games. This offense can be good enough. It's easy to say, add another piece. It doesn't matter right now. You have what you have in the playoffs. And you're creating opportunities. You just need to cash in on those opportunities. And they finally did towards the end of game 3, and then they broke it open. Dylan Dingler, the kid from down the street, homering against his hometown team to give the team a 2-1 lead, and then they piled on from there and piled on from there. Riley Green, an RBI knock. Spencer Torkelson, an RBI knock. Wenzel Perez, who was in the 3-hole, a knock with the bases loaded. They finally got rolling. They need to keep that rolling. They can't perform like they had been offensively. They need to perform like they did from the 6th inning on in game 3, and they can beat the Seattle Mariners. The X factor for me in this series, I'm going to ride with Javi Baez as my X factor. This guy is built for the pressure. He's built for the moment. Javi Baez is built for October. And look at it over the course of his career. With the Cubs, playing at Wrigley Field, always in the spotlight. Then they go to the playoffs. They go to the World Series. He's a guy. And then he starts to struggle when the team wasn't great, but then he gets traded to New York, and he's a guy there with the New York Mets after he got traded. And then he goes to Detroit. Not the sexiest town to play in the world. I can admit that, though I root for the Tigers. Not the sexiest town to play in. The spotlight's not always on you. The team wasn't playing great when you first signed there. But guess what? The team's better. This year, Javi Baez is an all-star. Tough second half. But the calendar turns to October, and Javi Baez shows up. It changes everything for this Tigers lineup. If you can have a guy who's hitting currently at the bottom of the lineup performing like he is, it changes everything. Javi Baez, for me, is this series' X factor. The Tigers can beat the Mariners, but they can't hit like they have been with runners in scoring position. I ultimately, at this series, I rolled with the Seattle Mariners winning. I still believe that to be the case. I don't think the Tigers offense... Look, you can win the Scooble game. You can win that game 1-0. But those other starts, when the Mariners are running out, whoever they're going to run out in those games, whether it be Luis Castillo, who was fantastic in his final start, or Logan Gilbert, or Brian Wu, with a nasty back into the bullpen, it's going to be tough for this Tigers offense to score in this series. I'm going to take the Mariners to win. I just think their pitching is too much, and I love the pieces they added offensively. I think the Mariners win this series and advance to the ALCS. Let's talk about the last ALDS matchup, Yankees, Blue Jays. Blue Jays are the number 1 seed, but they're the number 1 seed because they own the tiebreaker over the New York Yankees. These two teams both had the best record in the American League over the course of 162 games in the regular season. The Blue Jays are the 1 seed because they won more games over the Yankees, bumped the Yankees to the 4 seed, and that's why we're here. The Blue Jays will have home field advantage in this series. The New York Yankees are the favorite to win this series at -156 on FanDuel Sportsbook. The Yankees' strength is Aaron Judge. He's the best player in this series. The Yankees' strength is Aaron Judge and their rotation studs. The Blue Jays' strength is their starting pitching depth. We have another division rivalry in the DS round with these two teams. Yankees, Blue Jays. The Yankees beat the Blue Jays if their starters perform like they did in the wild card round. Max Fried was fantastic. Carlos Rodon, honestly, good. He had that error that really cost him and cost the Yankees in that game, but his stuff looked really good. Cam Schlittler, a legend, was born Thursday night in the Bronx. If their starters perform like they did in the wild card round, the Yankees win that series. The Blue Jays win the series if they keep Judge and Stanton quiet. The playoff narrative is still there with Aaron Judge. He had a couple hits in the first round, but a broken bat knock to center, a single, a big hit to left with Jarren Duran misplaying a ball and diving at the last second and dropping it. But he still doesn't have an extra base hit this postseason. The Blue Jays beat the Yankees if they keep Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton quiet. Aaron Judge is the best player in this series. Aaron Judge is the best hitter on the planet. If you can silence those studs in the middle of the order with your good starting pitching, the Blue Jays can win. The Yankees do not win this series if Judge stays quiet and if Stanton is quiet as well. The X factor in this series for me, I keep looking at this series thinking, like, where is the big advantage for the Blue Jays? I'm going to ride with my X factor being Anthony Santander. He's been hurt the majority of the year. He was bad at the beginning of the year. He's finally come back just in time for the playoffs. Is he that guy that you can place in the middle of the lineup that hit 40 homers last year with an OPS around 900? Is he that guy, or does he struggle? He's the X factor for me. He can change everything. He has a ton of pop. He hits from both sides of the plate. You can plug him in the middle of that lineup, and he can be Vladdy Jr. protection. But what do you get from him? Literally nobody knows. That's why he's the big X factor here for me in this series. Look, this series, in my opinion, I have the New York Yankees advancing. I sit back and I look and I say, how did the Blue Jays win this? Where's their big advantage? With Fried, Rodon, and Schlittler, I don't think their starting pitching is that big of an advantage. Their depth is deeper, sure, but in a 5-game series, look, Max Fried's going to be on 5 days rest, right? He started on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, so it'd be 4. Do they start Max Fried in game 1? I don't know. But you get to him in game 2. They're studs in the rotation I'll take against anyone. Offensively, Vladdy Jr. is no Aaron Judge. And then the Yankees lineup is better, has more depth. Back into the bullpen is a problem for the Blue Jays. Hoffman hasn't exactly been a shutdown guy. Bednar's been good. Devin Williams has been better. I just don't see where the advantage is for the Toronto Blue Jays. Tell me where the advantage is for the Toronto Blue Jays. Home field advantage? Yes. The place is going to be rocking. Yes. With the Toronto Blue Jays, if they want to win this series, they have to win both games at home. If the New York Yankees split on the road to start this series, there's a very good chance it does not go back to Toronto. I just don't see where the advantage is for this Blue Jays team. And I could be dead wrong. But give me Fried, Rodon, Schlittler over 3 Blue Jays studs in the rotation, or top 3 of the rotation against top 3 of the rotation. Give me the New York Yankees. Lineup depth, give me the New York Yankees. Back into the bullpen, give me the New York Yankees. It's pretty clear cut and dry for me in this series. That's why my pick is going to be the New York Yankees. It could be wrong, but we'll see how it plays out. So give me the New York Yankees to advance over the Toronto Blue Jays to the ALCS, which would leave us with a Yankees-Mariners ALCS matchup. I got 3 of 4 right in the first round. 3 of my 4 first-round picks were correct. The one I did not get correct was the San Diego Padres, but the Dodgers advance, the Yankees advance, and the Detroit Tigers advance all to the DS round. I can't tell you how awesome the first 3 days of baseball were. Absolutely fantastic. If it is any indication what we're going to get throughout the entirety of the playoffs, we are in for an absolute treat. Look, I criticize overmanaging at times because it's what I'm talking about what I see, but I love it because it's different. It's chaos. Sometimes it doesn't work and you're going to get called out for it, but sometimes you look brilliant. I thought Aaron Boone really overmanaged in game 1. And then you know what? I thought he learned from it. I thought he learned from it throughout the rest of the series. I thought in game 2, he started Jazz and Ben Rice as he was always going to against the righty, but then he let those guys face a lefty late, and it worked out. And then in game 3, you stuck with your guys, and then you let Cam Schlittler go through 8 innings and push well past 100 pitches. I thought Aaron Boone overmanaged in game 1 and learned from it in game 2 and game 3 and was much better. I love seeing the overmanaging happen because sometimes it doesn't work and you're going to get called out for it, but sometimes it does, and it's just what October baseball does to you. This has been an awesome playoff so far, Everything starts on Saturday. We get 4 games on Saturday. All the DS series start. What we know for starting pitchers so far is that, let's see, Shohei Ohtani and Christopher Sanchez are going up against each other in game 1. And Freddie Peralta is going for the Brewers in game 1. And that is all that has been officially announced so far. Fun week of baseball. Great weekend of baseball coming up. We just had John Smoltz on Thursday to talk through the first couple of games, talk through Dodgers, Phillies, talk through overmanaging. If you haven't listened, it's an off day. There's no games Friday. Go back and listen to the 15, 20-minute episode with the Hall of Famer John Smoltz. He was passionate about what managers are doing in October. It was a really fun episode. Make sure you check that out. Please make sure you're watching on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod. Comment, subscribe, like the video. That all really does help. I love hopping in the comments after every episode and talking to you guys and kind of continuing on the conversation from the episode. So please check us out on our YouTube channel where you can watch everything, like, comment, all that good stuff. Make sure you follow, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, and check us out on all social media at Flippin' Bats Pod on all social media as well. Enjoy the weekend of baseball. We will recap it with our typical Monday episode. A bunch of games will happen. We'll have an episode Monday. I'm going to start updating you guys when different episodes are going to come out because it's going to be hit or miss when I can record with Smoltz and when I try and record episodes. We're going to have one come out Monday, recapping the weekend, talking about what's coming up. Things are rolling. Baseball is rolling. 2025, the year of Flippin' Bats, my friends, and it is October. We're only 3 games in on each side, and it has been absolutely awesome. The wild card round was awesome. And now we advance to the AL and NLDS. Enjoy the weekend of baseball, my friends. Until next time, which will be Monday, find your bat and flip it.